Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing great today. It is sunny today at last. We have been deluged in endless rain for like the last 2 weeks. Oh, it's been awful. But I'm glad the sun is out today. It's also quite breezy. It's also quite breezy today as well. But anyways, today I wanted to show you how to repot your perennials if you have them growing in pots. Now, I have grown to really, no pun intended, I have grown to really love growing some perennials in pots, especially this one. This is an aster that has done so well for me in a container. This is actually its second container. I'm actually going to upgrade it, as I will show you in a minute. But this aster has been living in a pot for, it lived in its first home for about a year or two, and it lived in this pot for about a year or so. Or, yeah, something like that. But this is just, it keeps growing. And I actually looked at it the other day when I made a video on growing strawberries in containers, which I'll put a picture of the thumbnail on the screen if you want to go check that out. So I just want to show you how I do that. And it's not that difficult. You want to choose a container. Ideally, that's probably no more than about 2 or 3 inches. This planter right here, I just picked this up this morning from Lowe's, my favorite place to get plants and plant supplies and all that. But this is about a 19-inch planter, so that should give this guy plenty more room to grow. And I just want to show you how to do it. So first and foremost, I need to get this bad boy out of this container. So I will get it out and show you what the root system looks like. So here he is out of his pot, and I just want to show you these. Look at these beautiful root system. Looks like it's actually making lots of babies, or it's just the crown keeps getting bigger. It's clearly been very happy. Sorry, you can see that. That looks like more soil, but you get the point. So I'm going to put this in this new planter, and I will show you what it looks like when it's finished, and a few care tips on how to keep them happy. So here he is, settled in his nice new home, and I love it. I love the look of this planter. I like white planters, which, yeah, they actually do have a functional purpose. I'll talk about this in a minute. But I think just aesthetically as well, it looks gorgeous. So now I want to talk about how to care for your perennials if you have them growing in pots. Now, I'm sure you can read a lot about this online, and I'll actually link some articles down below if you want to go check them out. But generally speaking, growing perennials in pots is a little different than growing them in the ground, because obviously they're up above the soil, so they don't have quite as much insulation around them. So as a general rule of thumb, it's best to, if you can, to choose perennials that are hardy to at least 2 zones lower than yours. So for example, I live in a zone 6. So this plant is hardy to a zone 4. So that gives you a little bit of an extra buffer, if you will, in the winter time, because I have tried fudging that rule and it doesn't seem to work out too well. So I try and go at least 2 zones. I don't know, maybe you could give it a try, maybe you'll have better luck, like that rose bush that I pruned, that I showed in a video about how to prune it. I think I may have inadvertently killed it, but it could also just have frozen to death because it was only hardy to a zone 5, so it's only 1 zone lower than mine. So if you can, try to get plants that are at least 2 zones hardier is definitely best. If it's more, that's even better. If it's 3 or more zones even, that's even better. So yeah, that's generally speaking what you should plant. Any plant that can fit in a pot and that's at least 2 zones lower. Now, the other thing to keep in mind watering. So pots in general, they tend to dry out quicker. So I'm definitely going to have to be watering for this plant. And I do have to monitor it a little more than, say, my perennials in the ground, which typically once perennials are established in the ground, they pretty much get what they need from rain, at least around here, because we get a reasonable amount of rain. Obviously as of right now, we have just been drenched. So we've been getting more than enough, but generally speaking, we get enough rain. But to support them if they're in the ground. If they're in containers, I would definitely monitor them a little bit more, especially when it gets hot and dry in the summer. So that's for watering. So I would say check on them at least every couple days. You may even have to do it every day depending on the weather. So just make sure that the soil is not too wet and make sure it's also not too dry. It's kind of that you always need to find like that happy medium when it comes to watering. Now, as for lighting, just look on the tag for your plants to see what lighting they need. That does not change. These asters, these guys need full sun, which I do have. The spot I put them in has plenty of sun, so he'll be very, very happy. Now, fertilizing. This one, generally, again, because they're in the ground and because they need more watering, the nutrients kind of leach out of the bottom, so a little bit faster than they would obviously in the ground where they can reach further into the soil. But I think it really depends on the plant. Some perennials, like this aster, I just put fresh potting mix in this, and I honestly don't need to feed them. I probably will not need to feed them at all, especially because this container is so large, and this probably has a lot of nutrients in it. Or this potting mix probably has a lot of nutrients in it. So I think it will probably be fine. And so I would just check. Asters, I don't believe, are super heavy feeders anyway. So I generally don't worry about feeding it, especially if you just repot it in the spring. These guys, if you have a low feeding perennial such as this, that doesn't really require much nutrients, if you put it in fresh soil, it probably won't need feeding. But again, that also depends on how much water and the size of the pot. Because again, bigger pots will probably not need more water. I probably should have talked about that as well. Pot size matters as well. But you should also see if you're having to water more often, you may want to give it some fertilizer maybe halfway through the season. But again, as far as fertilizer is concerned, I'd say just use your best judgment. Just do your research on what plant you're growing in pots, and just might just have to use your brain on that one a little bit more. But yeah, that's sort of all there is to it. And as for overwintering this, like I said, make sure they're preferably hardy. Sorry, I can't talk today. To at least 2 zones below yours, whatever that may be. And if you want to give them a little extra protection, you can put them up, say, next to your house. And preferably if you have like an awning or something where they can stay a little bit drier because they won't need as much water. And I'd also like to stress the point, again, make sure it has drainage holes. This had like holes you could pop out. I actually drilled quite a few more just to be on the safe side, because you do not want that to happen. And in winter, they are at a much higher risk of rotting, especially if they do not have drainage holes. So please, please, please make sure they have drainage holes. And if you want to, you can cover them with like some terracotta pieces, which is what I did, to kind of keep the soil in the pot and also to make sure the holes don't get clogged. But just you can put it up next to your house. Maybe you can cover it with straw or whatever. But they should probably be fine. I've kept this plant in, I think, even a smaller pot. out there, like just out in the open, and it came back just fine. So it might just depend on your climate and a whole bunch of other things. Pot size, because obviously more soil equals more insulation. So I think that's about it for this repotting and for growing perennials in pots. I hope this video was helpful to you, and I hope it inspired you to kind of, I don't know, expand your horizons. You don't have to do perennials exclusively in the ground, and especially if you don't have room, like, and you really want to try something new, try planting it in a pot and see how you like it. I, for one, really love growing this aster in this pot, and while this doesn't bloom until the fall, it is super pretty when it does. In fact, I'll flash a picture of it, what it looked like last fall. I think it was like late last September or early last October. It was absolutely gorgeous. So anyways, if you like this video, please leave a like. I would really appreciate it. Comment and subscribe, and I'll be back with more garden-related videos here in the Buckeye State very soon. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.